And this talk today is about Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of compassion. And we do have a statue of Kuan Yin outside when you first enter in the standing statue. And the short Gatha-like poems are taken from the Lotus Sutra chapter, the Universal Gateway. In the Avatamsaka, like many Mahayana sutras, there's an emphasis on practice to serve all beings and practice just to practice. The Avatamsaka is of Indian origin and does make some mention of Avalokiteshvara, the male emanation of Kuan Yin, or compassion. But the importance of the enlightening being as one who is on their way to enlightened action permeates the whole of the sutra. There are two main standalone books, the Dasabhumika, and Bhumi is an Indian word for your paramitas. Many of us have studied the paramitas. And the Gandavyuha, entry into the realm of reality, and that's a story about a young aspirant who goes through 53 teachers to learn to be a compassionate being. Let's see, entry into the realm of reality from the Avatamsaka that focus exclusively on bodhisattva training. The Lotus Sutra and the Avatamsaka are both of Indian origin, and they are both poetic and image-oriented, fable and story-oriented, and stories that don't seem to have beginnings and ends. So, sometimes, people are a little frustrated with them, but they come from about the same period, about the first century in India, and both of them are called the crown of Buddhist sutras and Buddhist teachings, and both of them were very early, one of the first sutras to come into China, in the, I guess, from the 2nd century to the 7th century. Okay. The waters of compassion, the waters of Zazen. To fully inhabit our life, true to its nooks and crannies, the flow and eddies, unexpected and eachness as our pathways. The mysterious sound of Kuan Yin's name is wholly like the ocean's thunder, no other like it in the world. World-honored one, world-honored Lord and perfect one, I pray thee now declare, where this holy bodhisattva is known as Kuan Yin. The Mahayana teachings are permeated with the career of the bodhisattva Kuan Yin, who hears the cries of the world. The cries of the world are not merely human cries, but the cries of all sentient and non-sentient beings. Kuan Yin, Kanzeon and Tara, as she is sometimes known, or Avalokiteshvara, the male emanation of Kuan Yin, is the main protagonist in the Heart Sutra and the Universal Gateway chapter in the Lotus Sutra. We sing her praises in the Litany of the Great Compassionate One and call her name in our Kanzeon ceremony. Kanzeon, deep listener, Kanzeon, the observer, myth or tree woman, voiceless, as she is innermost, a traveler of the deeper waters. 1,000 eyes, 1,000 arms and hands, or portrayed with multiple heads, the myriad forms in which she appears, an all-embracing presence. There are many stories and rituals around Kuan Yin, her vow, for as long as space endures, for as long as all living beings remain, until then may I too abide to dispel the misery of the world. And this is the essence of the Bodhisattva vow. The Bodhisattva vow is the vow of the Mahayana. In the story of Mao-shan, a young princess sequestered by a cruel and overprotective father, a Cinderella story of sorts, is one of the most varied and popular, originating with the folk culture in China. Mao-shan could be considered precursor and early embodiment of the character of Kuan Yin. She begins as a goddess with shamanic qualities, finding kinship to the animals and trees, speaking with and tending all beings. It is said that her father, wanting a son, demanded Mao Shan marry. She refuses, as she was inclined to follow her own path. Her father, seeking to bend her will, imposed difficulties, forcing her to clean the palace stables, to work with palace slaves, concubines, and criminals. Through her predicament, she discovered deep empathy with others, kinship with those in distress, whom she did all she could to support. She held an aspiration to practice austerities and to serve. She longed for the deep silence, and she wondered about the nature of the Bodhisattva's heart. Mao Shan pleaded with her father, as she wanted to enter a convent, and when he refused, attempted to stop her. She left the palace of her own accord. Again, her father intruded, attempting to lure her back, demanding the nuns make her life a living hell. Fearful of the king and his possible retribution, the nuns complied. She was given a tiny, barren, windowless cell with only a cold stone floor to sleep, instructed to wash the last speck of gray dust from the old stone walls, almost blinded by the sharp specks raining down with each swipe of her brush. But she persevered. She was ordered to do garbage duty each morning and every evening. She cleaned latrines and animal pens, and finally was instructed, fatigued or not, to tend to the many sick and dying old nuns. She found through her suffering an opportunity for learning. Not only did she learn about medicinal poultices, energy points, and herbs to heal the bodies of sick and dying nuns, but through her trials she learned to cleanse her own heart. Drawing pus from the dying nuns, rampant bed sores, she began to sing to them of the Dharma field, the Brahmaloka abode of the Dharma kings, pure land where the ideal conditions for practice and fruition were effortlessly available. And sometimes the pain of the old nuns dropped away, and she wondered if they had gotten a glimpse of something wondrous beyond their long sickness and the ravages of old age. When any of the old nuns died, Mao Shan gently washed their bodies, singing to them of their own true nature. With vast pledge as deep as oceans throughout kalpas beyond our reckonings, she served the many thousands of millions of Buddhas to bring forth this great pure vow. For you, I explain it briefly, hearing her name, seeing her form. Kuan Yin, with mindful remembrance, is not in vain, for the woes of existence can thus be relieved. I want to momentarily switch gears and speak to the doctrine of the three natures. The Huayan school found its own voice by studying and incorporating teachings from different schools of Buddhism. And again, for those of you who have not been here or have forgotten, the Huayan is a derivative coming about in about the 7th century, a derivative of the Avatam Sutra, the Indian sutra, called the Flower Ornament Sutra. And the three natures is, I will explain it here. Okay, so the Huayan school found its own voice by studying and incorporating teachings from different schools of Buddhism. The structure of the three natures is drawn from the consciousness-only school and commentaries of Fa Sang. And Fa Sang is one of the 5 patriarchs credited with the founding of the Huayan school and considered the most subtle and intriguing mind of the Huayan patriarchs. I find this teaching helpful in my own practice to separate the transcendent aspect of emptiness and the imaginal realm from the relative world of nature and the individual and social world of persons. Living in a predominantly secular culture, we lack sufficient shared formal, spiritual, and imaginal possibility, ritual celebrations that offer imagery and story to dissolve our cultural tendency toward literalisms. I feel it's important to step back and gain distance from our world, to quickly discern and question the world and our relationship to it. There is no leaving the world. As long as we reside in a body, we remain with the world. The work is to enter more deeply into the world, suffering its consequence, so as not to be unconscious, enmeshed in aspects of the world, lost in its agenda and seductions, to see clearly and stand firmly as I am, thus as a friend to the world, and genuinely here for others. Our true nature is dynamic yet unchanging, as moment by moment change, as the nature of all phenomena is interrelated. In practice, this points toward an expression of non-attachment, letting go, letting things be. A process of letting go accompanied by deepening insight into who we are and what our world is. The character of emptiness is conditioned, flowing through all forms. Without form, there is no emptiness. Pliable, flexible, the fantastic nature of things. Without emptiness, there is no possibility of transformation, and there is no possibility of a world. The eye of the needle threading by way of the abyss. The relative world of nature we experience through the senses. This is the quasi-reality of phenomena, concrete and embodied, yet considered in the Buddhist perspective as unreal in its interdependent origin. In other words, it has no separate self-nature. So things simultaneously are real and are not. A tree is a tree, it's actually there. Buddhism will never tell you that it's not there, but it also, because it is interdependent, because it is dependent on every other thing in order to be itself a tree, it is considered, not a tree. Okay, so it is a tree and it is not a tree. Of the relative world of nature we experience through the senses. This is the quasi-reality of phenomena, concrete and embodied, yet considered in Buddhist perspective as unreal in its interdependent origin. So things simultaneously are real and are not. In the world of nature, things have distinction. Bodies are born, become ill, and die. Lastly, the mental worlds, not directly related to an objective physical reality, made up of feeling values, conception, and perception. The individual and social world of persons, the world of potential delusion, attachment, opinions, expectations, and attitudes of mind. Who we are relative to our world and relative to the ultimate ground is our space of practice. In the West, we often proceed backwards, cultivating underlying judgments, birth and death, right and wrong, success and failure, black and white kind of thinking, which is secondary at best and can itself be skewed. The key is in letting be, letting the whole thing be, day by day, by working it all the way through. The judgment that underlies and precedes our thoughts and emotions that often fuel habit energy that are so familiar. It can take a considerable effort and experience to trust enough to see into, explore, and unravel places we are caught. The empty nature of things is an absolute value, unbiased, how each phenomena is equal in its interrelatedness, equal in its emptiness, intimate, and the whole thing, equal in its power to influence and be influenced, regarding the matter as a whole. Emptiness is not nothing. So it is this place, how we are living together, the concepts and perceptions and feeling values that we, that we share in some ways. Some of them are our own individual, thoughts or learning or even aberrations. But this is the place that we work. So, and so it's important to distinguish them from the other two. And it's said that your dependent nature, things, and objects and trees, that, it is distilling, from your individual way of relating, distilling the erroneous ideas that we come up with, the places we are caught that cause us not to be able to be together. When we cleanse that, we come to the space of the transcendence or emptiness. So what we're calling emptiness, or interrelated reality that is considered, utmost truth. So emptiness is not nothing. You are actually the whole thing. You know what I mean? But each of us is equally the whole thing. Were you with murderous intent thrust with a fiery furnace, one thought of Kuan Yin's saving power would turn those flames to water. Were you adrift upon the sea with dragonfish and fiends around you, one thought of Kuan Yin's saving power would spare you the hungry waves. And Kuan Yin speaking to her devotees, don't search for my reality in the realm of appearances or in the void. Seek it in your own heart. There only it resides. And for Buddhists, all beings sentient and insentient are Buddha nature. All beings are innately good, okay, just as we are. Yet in practice, we cultivate courage and uprightness, seeing into our habits of mind. The ancient teachings illumine the mind, and the mind illumines the ancient teachings. Hakuin. Scriptures, teachers, precepts, other Sangha community members, as well as the world, model the practice pro or con to reflect our potential for realizing Buddha and where we are falling short of that potential. And this is an intuitive, felt, and changing process and highly individual. A community can offer an opportunity to penetrate the teachings in a genuine container of practice, but genuine community corresponds to our own practice, mirroring the interpenetrating nature of reality. Wrathful, banish thoughts of selfhood. Sad, let fall the cause of woe. Lustful, shed lust's mental object. Win all by simply letting go. In the Bodhisattva, an ever-awakening, enlightening being, an original development of the Mahayana, and most of the Mahayana sutras speak to its own awakening, a shift in the emphasis of Buddhist practice, the enlightening being as a bodhisattva. In the Diamond Sutra, the Buddha is instructing the Arhat Subhuti. In the Prajnaparamita, it is Avalokiteshvara who speaks, teaching the best of the Arhats, Shariputra. The error in early Buddhism is the one-sided attachment to emptiness. Emptiness is not a place. Practice is not the wearing away of the life force we let go by remaining with, letting the obscurations work their way through, then opening back into the world in our own proper rhythm and with clarity. Bodhisattvas remain with the world, continuously awake to suffering and responsive to the alleviation of suffering in the world. Four main bodhisattvas in our Buddhist tradition are Manju, Bodhisattva of wisdom. I'm not sure where he is. He's somewhere behind Abbot Ejo. And the sword cutting through delusion. Kuan Yin, Bodhisattva of compassion, and her statue, again, is in the front when you come in the door, her standing statue. Samantabhadra, Bodhisattva of loving activity, and I don't think we have Samantabhadra here. He's many times hidden and, not shown in a temple, but he is the main protagonist, this loving activity of the Avatamsaka Sutra. And next week will be a talk that focuses on Samantabhadra. And lastly, Jizo, Earth Store Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva is an ideal emanation of a Buddha, such as Avalokita bearing a lotus flower, born from a ray of light that sprang from the Amitabha's Buddha's right eye. In the Lotus Sutra, bodhisattvas bubble up. They dwell in empty space below the earth, firm in power of will and concentration, and with constant diligence seeking wisdom, they expound various wondrous doctrines, and their minds are without fear. A bodhisattva aspires to Buddhahood, appearing in diverse forms wherever and whenever they are needed. A bodhisattva aims to become a being exemplary in compassion, conduct, and wisdom. A bodhisattva is you and me, how we are a part of this community, the everyday things we do to care for and respect all beings, how we distill the practice to embody precepts, paramitas, and words of scripture. The practice of meditation is the practice of letting be, dissolving barriers we erect between the self and other. We sit upright, facing the wall, and in facing the wall, we face ourselves, following and permitting the breath to fill the whole body and mind, to work from the inside out, noticing thoughts as they arise. Day after day, we learn to stay, learning to hold this immensity. Through scripture and study, we investigate further mindfulness practice and precept practice, acknowledging and working with our karmic tendencies. What we slowly learn is that the self is not separate, but in deep relationship with events, people, places, and things. Meaningful change begins with the memory of our humanity. Whatever our circumstance, without engaging our distinct challenges, compassion has no root, no general theories, no moral should or should not, no conventional ideal of right or wrong will do. For me to do this inner work is not to rise above experience, but struck to the marrow, a wound exposed, a life broken open in fits and starts, with respect to its anomaly, in its way of twisting and turning. A life that is cautious and slow, not dependent on fitting an outer expectation. We follow our inborn path through what is personal, what we long for, and how we respond in particular. And through this work, we touch the root of what is essential. In practice, we cultivate a meaningful intimacy with the world, to accustom our eyes to seeing in the dark, to form and shape the way in which we inhabit our life. In Buddhist teaching, we strive to see things as they are, which brings about a greater acceptance of our life as it is. But we must pass through hell to come to heaven, to deepen imagination and clear seeing, a function of wisdom and the miracle of prajnaparamita. In his essays, Ivan Illich, Austrian philosopher and Roman Catholic priest, speaks to the interior gaze. He points to a change in the character of vision as a pivotal point in history. This is around the 12th century. He speaks to culture and society as plugging the imagination and plugging the perspective of place. He questions the future habitability of space. Really, it is about how we have lost touch with the potency and aliveness of our inner realms, not knowing how to receive and appreciate the myriad visitations, our obscurations and complications as our lifelong companions and teachers, how our attention to this inner realm corresponds to the relevance of our world. So what might this mean, accepting things as they are, in the face of injustice, inequity, cruelty, sickness, death, and old age? So I'm going to quote here from the life of a Dutch writer, Etty Hillesum, a young, sensitive, and highly intelligent Jewish woman living in Amsterdam during Nazi occupation. Living through a pogrom in Westerbroek, Netherlands, and eventually becoming a prisoner in Auschwitz in June 1943. Her diaries, begun in March of 1941, gave a sense of deep conversion. In July 1942, she writes, "Very well, this new certainty that what they are after," and this was the Germans, "is our total destruction." She says, "I accept it. I know it now, and I shall not burden others with my fears. I shall not be bitter if others fail to grasp what is happening to us Jews. I work and live with the same conviction. And she says, I find life meaningful. Yes, meaningful. So in the midst of really, very difficult circumstance, she comes to these understandings, comes to a place where she is stable, a flexible stability, stable within herself, and, and still recognizing that her life is rich and meaningful. During the persecution of the Dutch Jewish community, when I pray, she writes, I hold a silly, naive, or deadly serious conversation with what is deepest inside me. And at another time, I repose in myself, that part of myself that is the deepest, richest part. And it should be known that she was an active member of the Jewish Council during the war. She volunteered to go to Westerbork, a transit camp for Jews during Nazi roundups, as a liaison for the council, and to work in the camp hospital. As a prisoner in Auschwitz in June 1943, she was offered a chance to escape but refused, wishing to remain with others in the camp, her desire to be true to her own fate, her true gift, or the reason of our gifts. She was committed to helping the other women in the camp die with dignity. She could have chosen differently. We can't say for certain why she chose as she did. We can't say it doesn't matter because it does. We can't say each one of us would choose the same path because we might not. And I quote from the last words recorded in her diary before her death in Auschwitz in November 1943. We should be willing to act as a healing balm for all wounds. I'd like to mention that she was fairly young. I think at her death she was barely even 30. So, to cultivate a dynamic of our differences is to be challenged. For me personally, learning to wait, learning to stay, and trust this process and my life profoundly. I find voice bridging into the world, a language to reflect a spoken and or unspoken conversation amongst our differences and our sameness, a subtle balance between standing our ground wholeheartedly, yet willing to let our life go. Receptivity is a key to an open correspondence, the slow and subtle alternation of compliments, which is not about being complacent or attempting to flatten potentially rich and varied landscapes. We are encouraged to take courage and inquire, to question both the underlying personal and cultural mechanisms, to discover the where and how of our outmoded notions, so as not to rest comfortably with any ideal about perfection, as there is plenty of work to do. We take our place with all beings by cultivating a clear, kind, and gentle heart, beginning each day with the work of our own heart. And this is my poem. And it's about ancestors. And gee, I used to write all these things, and it's not till now doing this work with interpenetration that I realize, the sense of writing about ancestors and how these ancestors, the ones in our lineage, the ones in our family, invisible and unknown ancestors that move through our karmic tendencies, how real they are for us, and the earth itself, the earth that carries memory, how important these are, these tendencies as they come up for practice and learning a lot about our lives and each other's lives. So the inner traveler. I imagine the ancestors as fragments of the dead, an old story, the bits and pieces of their remembrance, the blue-black body of one long gone, who year after year in his dark embrace, each night the myriad ones who take me down, I who am absorbed, soaked through their dream, fear falls away through the ancient rites, to walk amidst their fire and smoke, breathe in the odor of their vanishing hold, step upon old faces, old bodies, to release old memories until they take new form, come alive. you who draw me out from behind. Within the dark image, an open space, a gap, a flow inside a bottomless whirl. Oh, my watery body, my sorrow, my doubt, your face smiling, your blessing sings. An unresolved yearning, infused with the sorrow of the world, you who keep me in love with the world, your mist which permeates, invisibly touching, who teaches me to stand alone. And that's my talk for today. So, questions? Anyone have questions?
I've been thinking a lot about the relationship between, which I have two questions.
Is that Sky?
Molly.
Molly, okay.
Thinking about the relationship between compassion and truth. I'm wondering if you can speak more about that relationship with the different bodhisattvas that they've had as they practice maybe compassion, truth, and how it relates to Dharma. That was the first question. And the second one is, what is the text that you're referring to that was it the jewel or was it the crown of
Buddhist sutras? That is the Huayan, both the Huayan and the Avatamsaka. It's considered the crown of Buddhist sutras. It's an Indian sutra. It's a book about this thick, but you can read it at any time, just chanting. It doesn't have to be in order. So anytime you feel, the inclination. So it's not a, beginning or end kind of book. You just kind of like a Ouija board. You just pick a page, and you know what I mean, and and chant, and you can let it just wash over you. You don't have to be concerned about understanding it right away. You just kind of let it. Be with you. So that is the Avatamsaka. The other is the Lotus Sutra, and the Lotus Sutra is, just it's a little more story, oriented than the Avatamsaka. And the Lotus Sutra is actually, we have done courses here, and we chant in the morning the lifespan. That's from the Lotus Sutra, and also the Universal Gateway. The poems that I used in this talk are not in order, but they are scattered references to that particular chapter about Kuan Yin. So that is the first part of the question. The second part of the question is that compassion is innate to us, real, genuine compassion with the practice, because as we let go of where we are caught up, where we are fearful, where we are angry, where we are envious, all of these things that are not bad things in themselves, but when we take them as an opportunity to act out or, be in denial about our circumstance, then they generate sorrow in the world or difficulty in the world. So when we stay and we meet our conditions, we meet our circumstances, we're more accepting of things that happen. We're not as bound by circumstances have to be perfect for me. I'm more bound by an inner sense of who I am and where I need to go, what I call an original vow. When we can dissolve some of these obscurations and learn from them, then we are very much more just in our being here, more compassionate, able to listen, able to be available. So I would say that would be the best way that I have to explain it. The different bodhisattvas, and they're not just statues, they are very real because they are real qualities that are in our own lives. We meet them every day if we would choose to appreciate and notice. And Manju, I guess, is wisdom. He has the sword of wisdom. Kyogen used to describe it as kind of a broad view, and that's more the I guess cutting through obscurations day by day. So a little different in quality than Prajna Parabita, that is more, indifferent and wicking up, some of the disturbances. But he's more active, male active, cutting through, obscurations as the cutting through delusions. With his sword. And Samantabhadra, again, is loving activity. And doing this has really helped me because I used to feel I was a failed Samantabhadra. But from reading this, I really have taken a very different view of success and a very different view of a full life than what the world, set out for me, or what I bought into as, what it would mean to be okay, or what it would mean to be, right or good. So, that, and that's just part of the practice. So Samantabhadra is this loving energy, or a loving being, active in the world, in the day-to-day world. And of course, Kuan Yin, or Avalokiteshvara, is the embodiment of compassion. So she's there so we can see her, and because we can see her, we can find these qualities, look for these qualities in ourselves and in others. So, so is that, and there are many other bodhisattvas. These are just the main ones. And there are bodhisattvas, that you meet every day in, in the grocery store, or, in the, in the temple, or, every place. So, okay. Anyone else?
Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing up Eddie Hillison. And there's a line in your poem which I had, and then I forgot, that falling in love with,
Being in love with the world.
being in love with the world.
Yeah.
I wonder, this history, the Jewish, something that I'm always super grateful when you bring forward. And I wonder if you could say a little bit more about how our ancestors are bodhisattvas and how that helps us be in love with the world.
I don't know. A lot of it I relate. I mean, I had family ancestry that really wasn't very positive. It was just damn negative and caused a lot of trouble. But, I have to really say that, things didn't go well. And so then I really had two choices. I was either going to beat my head against the wall, or I was going to turn it around and learn about why is it not going well, and what is my part in it not going well? How am I related to this, and to take it as my own practice? And I come from a Jewish background and had no religious training whatsoever, but still it is deep inside us. I'm sure. I always know when someone's Jewish, just because there's kind of this I don't know, mysterious connection, between people that have lived close together and people who have shared, similar traditions, so there is, it's not don't test me on this completely. But I always feel when someone tells me they're Jewish, I'm sure. So in a very positive way, you know what I mean? We do share these things. So there are wonderfully so distinctions between different racial groups and and different countries that we come from. So we are influenced by this. So that's the one. The second is the idea of ancestry that is more imagined. It's more imagined from my karma of things that come up for me, and also in people in study, writers, dead and living, that I have picked also as my teachers, that I have also assigned them something of part of my ancestry. So there is that ancestry. And then also, the ancestry, I guess, that is shared collectively, in the Western world, and how we suffer together, from Judeo-Christian beliefs, and also the beliefs and goings on in the modern world, and also the earth itself, the places that you're born, that the earth is alive, that our bodies come from the earth, they go back to the earth. So that would involve memory as well. So just a more imaginative way of, seeing yourself and experiencing yourself and other people. So it's more a mystery than, I've got you down type of mentality. So it's more, I think it has more potential than some of the ways that many of us learn to be in the world or be in the culture. So is that okay? Okay. And Ellie Hilsom, I forgot, the book is An Interrupted Life. Also, the kind of books I love where no beginning and end. You know, you can just, you know, pick up on some of her diary entries. It's written in diary. She's a fascinating and interesting person, and you know, really easy to relate to and move into. You know, how she, I don't want to say processed, but you know, how she related to the experience that she was in. So, you know, and you know, I think it's really, she's a lovely example. So, of a creative person, you know, that was activated by experience, you know, a situation. So it's a way of being individual that, you know, didn't really involve innovation, or it was just in being herself, in working through the life that was given to her. So I thought for that reason, it's also good for us to know. So anyway, and I have time for one more question. You know, yes. Uh-oh. I probably talked about gods, but I have a good reason. You know.
Musical training.
Okay.
You have also. And I wondered what you were saying about music, leading to an understanding of everything you said.
Music, I think music is so deeply feeling, and because it isn't related to words, you know, it gives this really huge way of relating to experience. You know, I always, you know, find it, you know, in, you know, kind of an emotional way of relating to life and relating to things. So it's not, you know, it's not as precise, you know, in the way that letters and writing and words are. So there's a lot of room, you know, to just be with experience, to be with ourselves without, you know, without dividing it into a particular idea or concept or way of looking. So in that sense, and also, you know, music is very real. You know, it takes us back, you know, depending on experiences that we have, and opens us. Is my experience. Music will always, you know, open me to places I've been, things I've been through, and reconnect me, you know, to the past in a very genuine way. So that's how I relate to music. Is that okay? And I did play the violin when I was a kid. I stopped, but I did play the violin when I was a kid. And you went to Juilliard, is that correct? Yeah.
I went to a teacher, Julia. The teacher, she was outside. So I didn't go to Juilliard Extension.
Oh, okay. All right.
Extension School.
Okay. All right. So.